Hi there, I'm Coach Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And in this video, we're going to be talking to you about my ex sent me a handwritten letter.
Ooh, this one's a juicy one, you guys.
Yes, and the thing about this one that's so interesting is that this handwritten letter comes from an avoidant dumper.
And hear this, a year and a half, is that right?
A year and a half after the breakup, she got this handwritten letter out of nowhere. She had come to me for a different breakup, but she still watches our videos all the time. And she's like, Craig, I have to tell you, I heard from an ex from a year and a half ago out of nowhere. And wait till you hear it.
Wow.
This is going to be juicy. Now, it is handwritten, so poor Victoria is going to have a hard time trying to interpret this to English, but we'll do what we can.
And this is also my first time reading it, so bear with me.
Okay.
And for some context, it sounded like he was in a very rigorous field during the relationship. He was neglectful. She was hoping that he would be more thoughtful with things, and he wasn't. So the relationship kind of deteriorated from there.
Yeah.
With a lot of disappointment. You know, a lot of things that we do see from somebody who's more avoidantly attached. So.
Yeah, she was really frustrated with things because she grew up in a good family, no trauma, no drama, she said. And so she wanted a healthy relationship, and he just wasn't stepping up to the plate and doing what she was hoping for.
Yeah. And it sounded like she had been pretty patient with him.
So this handwritten letter comes out of nowhere.
All right. He says, Dear Lola, I changed her name.
Okay.
Came up with the name that time. First off, you are the love of my life, my best friend, and my priority.
Okay, can we just pause for already? They haven't talked in a year and a half. And he's saying you're my priority and my best friend? That's pretty wild.
And mind you, it sounded like during the relationship, that was one of the issues, is that she didn't feel prioritized by him.
Yeah, that would be infuriating to get this out of nowhere. Like, what do you mean I'm your priority?
Yeah.
I wasn't a priority when we were together. A year and a half later, I'm your priority? I'm your best friend? So you're also going to see what it would feel like. Imagine getting a handwritten letter.
Yeah.
Now you can see one.
Your smile lights up a room. Your beauty is unmatched. You are so intelligent, emotionally connected, spiritual, and adventurous. I feel so lucky to have you in my life.
Can we pause that? I feel so lucky to have you in my life. He's talking in present terms.
Yeah.
Like this was over a year ago. I'm pretty sure it was like literally right around a year and a half, right? Based on the dates she gave.
Yep. And I think this also goes to show you that the processing for somebody with an avoidant attachment style is so different.
You see, this is a year and a half later and he's still talking like they just talked last week.
Your values are so aligned with mine, and I feel it's the perfect scenario. You've taught me so much about life, relationships, stepping out of a comfort zone, and so much more. I cannot thank you enough for pushing me to be a better me every day, and I've grown from this. My hope is that I've made you feel loved and help you discover what it is that you want in life. I hope that is me. We've shared so many memories together, and God knows there's a lifetime more to be had.
First of all, I just want to applaud Coach Victoria for being able to read this. It looks like a doctor wrote this when he was drunk upside down. Okay.
I've worked with kids, so I've had to decipher some messages here. I'm truly sorry for the times in which I've been absent, neglectful, dismissive, and unloving. This to me makes me wonder if he's worked with a therapist.
He had a therapist write this.
Yeah. But I will say, you know, I do think that's something that I respect there for him to be able to own up to that. We know that in the past, it sounds like he's been one to kind of act like nothing's happened from what she has said in, you know, a separate email. And so I'll give him that. I respect that he's been able to own these words: absent, neglectful, dismissive, and unloving. These are strong words. And many of you who have avoidant exes wonder what it would feel like for them to admit that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And now you're getting to see, and it may be shocking. You're like, what? a year and a half later. But this is what happens a lot of times with your ex. They come out, they come back, 6 months later, and they're acting like the breakup just happened. Here we have a guy doing it after a year and a half. You're the love of my life. You're my best friend.
Yeah, it's pretty shocking.
Yeah.
Once again, you've pushed me to
something myself. Looks like rid myself
of these terrible habits, and I promise never again to act in those ways. If it does not change the past.
It does not change the past.
It does not change the past. Thank you, Craig.
This is not easy to read.
And I have no excuses. What I can do is vow to be better, a better man, lover, supporter, a son. The lover part is funny to me, but I respect that. There's a lifetime ahead for you and I as partners in crime. I could not wait for that. I want to give you and show you the world. All I ask is for an opportunity. I know I've had many. I sincerely believe you will not regret it because I feel it in my heart. I'll love you always. You have such a special place in my heart, and I want it that way forever. Love.
Smitty? Did you say Smitty?
Yeah.
All right, Smitty it is.
And so you could see there's a lot of emotion in this. And I imagine for her, she's probably thinking, too little too late at this point because of the hurt that's been caused.
Yeah.
I respect his accountability here. What I wish he would have touched on, there's a lot of superfluous language on what the future might hold and his commitment to her now. A lot of times people will miss this very important step, which is what must it have been like for my partner to be in this relationship?
Yes.
Do I understand the pain that they felt in dating me? What was it like for them to be awaiting a phone call from me? What was it like for them to feel ignored? What was it like for them to feel dismissed? All of those things that he had mentioned. So I respect the fact that he, took ownership of that. He admitted to that type of behavior, but I wish he would have gone a little bit more into what that was like for her.
Yeah.
Because it seems like, I get it, I messed up, I showed up in those ways, but I want you to commit to me because I'm feeling very passionately right now.
Yes, this is all about me and how I feel. I feel this way about you now, so now you should give me another chance. Even though it's been a year and a half since we've talked to each other. I mean, could you imagine how shocking that would feel to get something like this? You'd be like, what? I think we'd all be like, what is it, a year and a half later?
And one thing that happens in a breakup, one thing that happens when, your partner is neglecting you is trust is slowly chipped away at. And so I imagine her reading this thinking, how am I supposed to trust this person?
Yep.
After so long. So it takes time and it takes consistency. We know that in no contact, many of you are working really hard on yourself. And that shows up in the way you approach someone. It doesn't show up just with a lot of strong words and promises and vows. It shows up by consistently being patient with someone, consistently putting in effort. This to me seems like his attempt here really to reconnect. And in my opinion, it's coming on very strong.
Yep. It's like a kind of like a grand gesture in a letter.
Yeah.
About all these magical things, about how wonderful life is going to be and how I vow to be perfect and loving and amazing. And, I just don't think this would be effective on many people. There might be some people that would get this and think, oh, I want to fix it. I can tell you in this particular case, it did not.
Yeah.
She's not considering dating him. This came out of nowhere for her, and I don't think she is feeling too good about getting this. I don't think she is happy that she got it. I think it's more like a shock, a surprise, and she doesn't think that he's going to change. She told me that she had given him many chances. She doesn't really believe these words, and she's just not interested. And that's often what happens when you send something like this to somebody.
Yeah.
more often than not, it might have been nice to hear some of these things that he's finally owning up to, but it doesn't make you want that person back.
Yeah. Yep. And a lot of these phrases that he's using, looking forward to be partners in crime again. And it's almost like there's this expectation that she's going to say, yes, I've been waiting for this. So you could see perhaps what he thought the outcome would be just based on how he's writing this letter is very different from the reality of it. And I know many of us going through a breakup, we have in our minds that our ex is going to interpret or receive something like this, a letter, our messages, our, our scroll of thoughts and feelings that we vomit out on a page, that they're going to interpret it in a certain way. But a lot of times, they're viewing it from a different lens. So we have to respect that. We have to, be able to give people space. And the way that we show that we've changed is through consistency. Many of you ask, well, okay, I'm not going to interact with my ex every day. How am I going to show them that I've changed? In the case that they reach out to you, whether it's an indirect direct, whether they run into you at the store, whether there's some interaction that happens, it's going to be in what they sense. I can sense all over this letter that maybe he's starting to understand, what his behavior has done to the relationship, but can he truly empathize with her? If I'm looking at this and I'm her and I'm thinking, does this person really understand what I've been through? I would be questioning it.
Yeah, it's all about how he feels. Even the card. Can you read what the card says?
Oh, okay. The card says in the center, it says, hi again, still love you.
Hi again, still love you.
Yeah.
Well, the hi, it just for some reason when I read that, it reminds me of the Joker. There's a funny scene in Batman where the Joker's just like, hi. He's dressed as a nurse. It's hilarious. Anybody who's seen The Dark Knight knows what I'm talking about. And so when I see that, that's just what I'm thinking. It's like, hi. I mean, come on, man. Like, this is overwhelming, and it would make me angry to get something like this from somebody who, for how they were together for years, were neglected for years, and then they come back out of nowhere with all these promises. I promise to never again act that way. I'm gonna change. I have no excuses. I vow to be better. And talking like I'm still your best friend. Like that's almost demeaning.
What's wild to me about this is there's no acknowledgement of she could be in a completely different place in life.
She could be engaged to somebody else.
No, like, hey, how's it going? No, I understand you might be in a different place in life right now. So, you could see that there's something about this that feels out of touch. I don't know his intention behind this. It probably was him feeling very passionate and hoping that she would respond in a very loving way. So.
Yep. Just comes across to me as pretty self-absorbed through all of this. Not how she's felt, not how she would feel getting this letter. Not even saying, I know you must be surprised to hear from me.
Yeah.
But, ease into it, buddy. He jumps right off the bat with, first of all, you're the love of my life.
Yeah.
That is the first sentence. My best friend and my priority. I mean, how would you feel if you got a message from somebody a year and a half later that says you're my priority? I'd be like, what? Yesterday I didn't know you knew I was alive or dead. Now I'm your priority. Like what?
Some steps have been skipped here.
Exactly.
But we really appreciate her sharing this letter with us because I think it is really insightful. And I think it really does open your mind. A lot of times we think, oh, our avoidant ex isn't thinking about us at all. Yep. They don't go through these kind of emotions. They're just kind of like a robot and don't experience these things. So it's interesting to see this written out and to see how the situation played out. Yeah.
And it shows that he's had some processing here, but in many ways it makes me feel like he hasn't. And like you said, where's the empathy here? That not any kind of understanding that she could be in a completely different place in her life. It's talking like they talked last week.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's like... That would make me angry, right? Because it's kind of like insulting to talk to somebody like that.
Yeah.
Like it's almost a little gaslighting, right? It feels a little like you're gaslighting somebody by saying that to them after so long. Like maybe 2 months later, you could say get away with something like that, but we're closer to 2 years and 2 months.
Yeah, it's very intense. So it sounds like she's taking these things into account. It sounds like she's hesitant as expected, and she's trying to make the best decision moving forward. It would be hard for me to trust this too. So.
Yeah, I wonder how many times he said I in this. I'm seeing a lot of I's, if you notice. I ask, I sincerely, I'll love you always. I can do is vow. I have no excuses. I promise. I mean, it's just riddled with how he's feeling and not really showing an understanding of what it might be like to get a card like this out of nowhere. But like I tell you guys all the time, this is what a lot of avoidant exes do. They are stuck in that moment of the breakup, and they come back after a long period acting like the breakup just happened. And this is a great example of where you can see somebody that's doing that exact thing.
Yeah. So take all these things into consideration. Many of you are on the other side of this, wanting to write a letter. Some of you are, receiving some pretty lofty promises for an ex and are on the other side of it. So a lot to consider here. Think about it.
Yep.
Just think about it.
Yep.
That's all I'll say.
All right. So hopefully you enjoy this one and found it helpful. If you want to get our help personally, you could do that on my website, askcraig.net. I do email coaching and I do Zoom calls. Coach Victoria is also available for Zoom calls.
I'm here whenever you'd like to chat.
But that's it for this video. I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And we will talk with you soon.